But it is a noble thing to want to be like God. And he says, you're going to be like God, you're going to know good and evil. Now, that's a half-truth. They did know good and evil, Adam and Eve did. That's right, over in chapter 3, verse 22, behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. But as I said last time, they didn't know good and evil the way God knows evil. They knew good before, but they began to know evil not the way God knows it. God knows it like the physician who offers the cure to the cancer victim. They know evil like the cancer victim who's dying from it. They knew evil experientially. It wasn't that they knew evil. Oh, now I understand what evil is. It wasn't that. It wasn't some kind of cognitive thing. It wasn't some rational thing. They knew evil by doing it. And so Eve, wanting to be like God, thinking probably that's a good thing, and doubting that God was all good, and if God's not all good, and there are things outside of God's allowance for me that are good and satisfying and fulfilling, I can get those things and at the same time be like God. I think that sounds pretty good to me. And so the sin had already taken place in her heart. The fall already came before she ever took the fruit. And I remind you, there's nothing magic about the fruit. There wasn't some magic potion in the fruit. This isn't Aesop's fables. There's nothing magic in the fruit. It was not that brought about some change in her nature. It was the moment that she first distrusted God that catapulted her into sin. Nothing in the fruit was evil because nothing in the world was evil, right? Even the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was part of God's good creation, very good creation. So they knew evil when they distrusted God's character. And the evidence that they distrusted God's character in the heart came when they disobeyed His word by taking the fruit. So by now, Eve's mind has changed. Now it has to work on her emotions. So let's go to tonight's point and see how far we get. From the solicitor to the strategy. From the solicitor to the strategy. We come thirdly to the seduction. To the seduction. Now, what happens is, this is in the mind of Eve, that she has sinned by not loving God with all her heart, soul, mind, and strength. She's now sinned in the mind. She's distrusting God, distrusting His goodness, thinking He's narrow, thinking He's harsh. She's changing His word, altering what God said to accommodate the way she's thinking. She's not defending God's character. She's not defending God's word. She is even believing the lie that there is no absolute standard that she has to conform to or she will die. She now is convinced that it's not as absolute as God said it was and that she won't die. But that's not all that has to happen. That's just the mind. That's just the cognition process. It's got to move beyond that. So now you come to the seduction. Look at verse 6. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from its fruit and ate. We'll stop at that point. Now here's the process that's going on inside of her. It's in the mind now. She's got doubts about God. She's got doubts about God's character. Satan has caused all of that to happen in her mind because she made all the wrong choices down through the whole conversation. But what is in her mind has to work in her emotions in order to activate her will to actually take the fruit. And that's what's happening. This is defined for us in very clear terms in James 1. James tells us how this process works. James 1:14. Each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his own lust. Now we move from thinking to feeling, from the mind to the emotion. We have a thought, and we let that thought begin to move and seduce us through our lust. In verse 15, when lust finally conceives, it gives birth to sin.